Welcome your host, Caddy Frink, as she leads discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Gotta wait till that last little bit of music does its playing thing to pull myself into this incredible program that I get to be part of. So my name is Caddy Frink. I'm your host at Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution, here because of Minnesota Recovery Connection, where I work. So I want to thank everybody listening always, because all the listeners are people that I adore and love. And I want to introduce my guest for the day. Who's across the table from me?
My name is Kenzie Johnson.
Kenzie Johnson! Why don't you, after I ask you what's right with you, then we'll tell everybody who you are. Okay. So what's right with you today, my friend?
Oh, what's right with me today? Well, the weather's getting better. Thank you, finally.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful to be back here after a year because, like you said, it kind of shows the growth. And then I even kind of see the growth in myself in the sense that, I'm able to see that I can take a step back and just figure out who I am in recovery. So I'm kind of in a new phase of ready to kind of step into myself a little bit more. So that's why.
Yeah.
What's right with you today, Miss Caddy?
What's right with me today? Let's see. What's right with me today is that I have been given a lot of opportunities lately to give out. And I had a personal recognition from someone that really meant a lot to me. So thank you, that person, CM. We'll just leave it at that. So I'm just feeling like what I'm doing is right. Yeah. If what I'm doing makes a difference, at least into some scope. I don't know exactly where, but that's a very satisfying feeling. And literally that's why I'm on the radio right now. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because I want to be able to have real discussions about recovery to community. I don't care what community you belong to. So just a gratefulness. And to that point, I want to thank anybody that's donated to Minnesota Recovery Connection. We can always use your love and support. These are interesting times for nonprofit organizations. So if you have any extras, we would love to be a recipient of that. I want to spend a special thank you to someone's initials, that is MK, who gave Minnesota Recovery Connection a really important opportunity, and myself is included in that. So thank you, MK. So, just a whole lot of gratefulness right now. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm just going to choose to go high.
Yes.
Thank you, Michelle Obama. We go high when they go low. I'm going to go high. Thank you very much. So who are you?
Well, I think I'll start with my elevator speech, kind of like what we talked about. So in our world, I started my journey with Minnesota Recovery Connection through the Recovery Coach Academy. And we do this thing called an elevator speech where if you have a little bit of time to tell somebody why you're doing what you're doing, this is how you do it. And so I'll do my elevator speech. It's been improved. And I'm really excited about that. So my name's Kenzie. I'm a woman in long-term recovery. What that means to me is I've been substance and alcohol free for just about 3.5 years.
Whoop, whoop.
I've been in recovery from unsheltered homelessness, incarceration, and domestic violence for about 3.5 years as well. It's still a process, though.
Okay, that's a whoop, whoop, whoop.
Right, yeah. And then, through those lived experiences that I have, recovery means to me that I get to use them, my own lived experiences, to empower others who are going through the same thing to find recovery, whatever that looks like for them.
Bam, drop the mic. Literally, it's drop the mic. Bam. Thank you. It is so interesting because when I invited Kenzie, I don't know where that came. I'm like mixing three names that I talked to today. When I invited Kenzie to come on the show today, she goes, I want some redemption from the first time. And that's the thing, how many people have had an opportunity in their life to be on a radio show? I mean, look at me. I had an opportunity to have one. I mean, and every time I get to walk in here, I don't have as many nerves as I used to, but then I always have to reach into somebody else's personhood and say, who are you? How are you? And the growth that you have had, young woman.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys have been a big part of it, so I'm
Why?
going to be grateful.
What has that meant?
With just from you guys, or just all in general?
Everything, the growth that you feel you've gained.
I always told myself when I went into early recovery, when I was at Tapestry,
which is a treatment center.
Yep, a women's treatment center. It's kind of like your first step before you go to the next, like, more long-term. I chose long-term. And so I always told myself, I want to come back out to where I was before, which was, outside, unsheltered, homelessness. And I want to come back, and I want to use the knowledge that I have. Sorry. And, try to change.
I'm going to pause you there. So you were living outside. You were living without a home for a period of time. You found your recovery in a way that I want you to even go into deeply. But you just said that you want to go back outside to where the people are, that you're not part of that community anymore, but it is in your heart.
Yes.
It is in your soul. Absolutely. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Wow. Wow. A lot of people would say, whoa. Let's leave that history over there.
Right.
So why did you want to go back and work with those folks?
I just felt like that I could make a difference with what my experience was, and if I went out and learned from the people that are still out there, because I want to be an advocate. I want to use my voice and my knowledge from those and myself to create, system change around a lot of things, and so. That's kind of my main thing is I can see that there can be a change if the people who, went through it or are going through it are able to construct the policies and systems and all that, So that was the big thing. And, it's been very different than I expected, but I love it so much. I've learned so much from so many people, and I'm so grateful for that because I just love what I do, whether it's good or bad. It's just... It pays off so well, even just in my soul. So I love it.
Wow. And you all can't, we got a camera in here. Wave to the people on the camera. Hi. I want to just acknowledge how much you have even physically changed. And I don't know if you know what I mean by that. I don't mean anything about weight or this or that. How you present. I just pulled myself away from the microphone. That's not what you do at a radio show. How you present. You are sitting up straighter.
Yeah.
You have more confidence. You have more personhood than you had a while back, a year ago. And it is so visible. And I think when we're going to take a break in a couple of minutes, but what I want to come back with is what that has done with the people that live without homes, those who are struggling literally on the streets. The way you present changes how people see themselves. Is that not true?
I believe so, yes. And I feel like I just try my best to see them as they're human, and it's worked really well for me.
So how you get to be seen by them. First, at some point, you were a community member in the homeless encampments and places and spaces. And then now you get to show up like in full Kenzie.
Yes.
Like this new person who has got years in recovery, who knows the way the streets work and how they work. And I really kind of want to dive into that because I think it's important for people who see people who are homeless, because those are the terms that we use and that's the messaging that we get. Who are maybe some of those stories? And I know you've got a couple of success stories that you told me about them. And I'm like, that's also what we want to hear, because we can see what's going wrong, but we rarely see what's going right. Because when it's going right, it's just part of a different community.
Right.
It's success, it's work, or it's homes, or it's something. It's not the unpleasantness that's in front of us, or what the perceived unpleasantness. I really want to reframe that. My apologies, because it's concerning, it's heartbreaking, it's confusing, it's sad. I mean, I can go on with all kinds of, descriptors. So I'm really excited to have you talk about it. So Kenzie worked with Minnesota Recovery Connection through what we call AmeriCorps, and you were with a program called Recovery Corps, and you were are a kind of all around.
Yeah, recovery project coordinator.
Okay. And that's a person who helps kind of in the back of the house of an organization. So you were with us really developing some of this individuals that are living without homes and just our awareness of it. So I'm going to have her describe a little bit of that program too. So it's just I have learned so much from you because you share quite well. You've gotten better. You've gotten way better. And then her eyes are wide open, y'all. And that's the beautiful thing, because what she sees, she shares now. Before it was like, who am I? I feel like a little bit of a turtle. I'm going to go into my shell. But now she is sprouting like a big sunflower. So we will be back with Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution here on AM 950, the amazing progressive radio station. Thank you for listening. Listen to that lovely music playing. Just love it. Well, hello. My name is Caddy Frink here on AM 950, the progressive radio station, and the host of the show of Redefining Recovery Revolution. Got to get in all those plugs so everybody knows. Hey, and I realize I very rarely say, if you ever want to contact us at Minnesota Recovery Connection, it's Minnesota Recovery. No, what is it? MinnesotaRecovery.org.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, all of a sudden I just went blank. MinnesotaRecovery.org, or you can look at my name at Caddy at MinnesotaRecovery.org. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. You want services, you want information. We are always available to community. That's what we do, right? Right, Kenzie?
Exactly.
I mean, that's what this whole peer recovery work is about. So I asked Kenzie, what I'd like her to do is just give a little teeny, the short version of her story that got her to where she is now. Because I think it's sometimes when people are listening, they're like, okay, who's this lady? She was homeless. What am I supposed to know about her? So when I try to talk to people in the community, both we have our community, the recovery community, then you have your community that you identify with, and then there's everybody else.
Right.
And everybody else has misunderstandings, misconceptions, preconceived ideas, biases, has maybe bad experiences with people that might be living without homes. So I want them to hear where your story and then where you've come to. So give it a shot.
Okay. So I think I'm going to talk about a little bit just how I got out there, right? A lot of people, they think it's no jaw, and just lazy. For me, it was a very extreme domestic violence situation. We were homeless together, and then I basically was just dropped off on the street and never seen again. And so...
okay, I'm going to pause even right there.
Yeah.
So you were, prior to this relationship, you had a place that you lived?
We had a home together. We had a job. I was a Lyft Uber driver. We had a dog together. I mean, we had all the things. And then, COVID hit and money got tight. And so we made choices.
And things,
yeah. We'll say that.
Things went, they made choices that were not productive for your future.
Right.
Would that be accurate?
Right. But I always say this too. Everybody has a different version of survival. Different survival, anything.
And so, survival is just that. If you're sitting across the table from me, you have survived.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
So COVID hit, and so that's what I'm hearing was really kind of the instigator of a lot of things changing. Thank you. Sometimes I really like to tell the story because, like you said, sometimes think you're just sitting around when you don't have a job and you use drugs and that's it. Yep. There's usually a story as to why somebody gets to that point. So thank you. Continue.
Yeah, so I just kind of... it was confusing. All of it was confusing. I'm not one of those people. I was not one of those people who was around anybody, really. I was in a psychosis most of the time.
So you had mental health issues?
I had mental health issues. I was using meth heavily, fentanyl towards the end. I was just solo out there. I was one of the...
So you were dropped off on the street corner and you just kind of flew from there?
I tried to get in contact with this person, the ex, but... didn't happen, so I was just like, well, I guess I'm on my own, I was in a psychosis for even probably before that. I had been using very heavily, so I had no idea really what was going on. My reality was not the reality that I was in.
Okay. You were in an alternate space.
Mm-hmm. And so, when I think about it now, it just felt like I was stuck in a loop. It feels like a loop, and the substances are kind of what helps you survive that loop. But
explain that. What do you mean by that?
When you have all these emotions from whatever brought you out there first, and then the traumas of even just being out there, some of the...
Out there meaning living
out on the streets. Yep. You're living on the streets, there's violence, there's, you succumb to some of the elements. I was starving at one point for a few months. And so these are things that, a lot of people don't really know or look at. They just kind of see what they see. And then once other people, once night hits, they don't see it anymore.
No, it disappears.
Yeah.
Because it's nighttime.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I would go in and out of jail a lot. I would get picked up in Hennepin County, and then I would just kind of do a jail tour for maybe a month or two. And I think that kind of is what planted the seed for me of recovery, because they'd always send me to treatment, but then I'd leave.
Oh, okay.
And so...
Okay, now I'm going to stop you again. So... you went through a couple of cycles of this. And so you are still in this psychosis space. So you go into jail.
The whole time.
Yeah, you go into jail. You're not thinking right because things are not not going well, then they say to get out of jail, you go to treatment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people need to understand, if you go from jail to treatment, you're going to a place where you're told what to do, when to do, where to do it, how to do it, and you've been doing it on the street exactly the way you want it. You may not like all the circumstances, but then you go to some place where they're telling you all these things, and you say basically, I'm out of here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the big attraction too. Well, at least for me, it was like I have my freedom and I'm afraid of this unknown, so I'm going to leave because I'm uncomfortable. You know, for a lot of other people, sometimes they only have the people that are in the community with them. That's their family. And
that
so
are out
that's
on
what
the
draws them
streets.
back.
Yeah, that's that, because that is, I mean, I think people need to understand, and I think I've learned from you, but just having a little bit of lived experience, communities are wherever people are. And so they can be living in a parking lot someplace. They can be living under a bridge. They can be living in South Minneapolis. And then you can be living in a home in South Minneapolis or in a home beside a bridge. But that's your community.
Right.
So you know what to, more or less what to expect.
Right.
So that truly is a comfort spot.
Yes.
In a very weird way, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think, you know, jail is kind of what planted the seed of, you know, just my life's got to change, but I'm not ready, right? And then I got arrested, you know, back in September of like 2022, and I was like, boo, you know, I don't want to do this again. I would cry every time because I didn't want to be not outside because I was so comfortable, you know? And I did about 2 months, and I was like, okay, I want to go to Teen Challenge. You know, and I did about a week, but that program wasn't for me. I commend people who go through it, though, because a year is...
Yeah, because Teen Challenge is a year-long commitment in treatment, and that takes a lot to be able to endure that if you can stick it out.
Yeah, and it just wasn't, I was too anxious, wasn't ready, so I left. Spent about another week back out on the streets without a home. And I used, you know, opiates for the last time. What I thought was heroin, but I know now was fentanyl, you know, and as I'm kind of hitting, I took that hit, and then I started nodding out. And I was like, okay.
Something not right.
I'm going to either die, you know, I'm not going to see my family again. I'm going to end up in prison, you know, I'm going to, all these things. I was like, is this what I want for myself, you know?
Right.
And so I ended up checking myself into the hospital on the U campus. And from there, I advocated for what I wanted my recovery to really look like. They based kind of my probation conditions and like everything around what I wanted from my recovery. They quashed my warrants. They did all of that. And that's something I'm really grateful for because not everybody has that either.
So it sounds like where you ended up, the system actually heard you.
For the first time, you know, I mean, at first, you know, when I was out there, they didn't, but then, yeah.
In this case, you actually kind of walked in the door and said, I need help.
Yep.
And what I want to reiterate in that is what we do at Minnesota Recovery Connection. Somebody comes to us and says, I want help. And we say, what do you want help with? We will go the way you want to go. And I couldn't help but connect those two dots because a lot of times people don't understand what Minnesota Recovery Connection is. And now you've talked about a hospital system that said, I'll help you the way you want to be helped. And they have all kinds of extra spaces and places they can do that. MRC, Minnesota Recovery Connection, does similar stuff. We have our different tools in our toolkit. How amazing that they heard you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that U of M campus, you know, the ER, I'll be forever grateful to them because there's a lot of hospitals that do not treat people respectfully.
Not at all.
You know, and so they saved my life a few times while I was out there.
Good on them.
Yeah.
So then,
you know, I mean, I got the crazy idea to come back into my, you know, the community I came from of, you know, the unsheltered community. And I was like, I'm going to go back out there and I want to help people, but I got to get myself stable enough to be able to handle that, you know.
Okay, wait a minute. So you went through treatment at this, where was that?
Tapestry for a month. And then I did 3 months at a new. Yep.
And so here you've got 4 months of nice, good recovery time, sort of maybe getting your mental health also
absolutely.
regulated.
That was the big thing.
And so then after that, you decide you're going to go live without a home or you're going to go position yourself in the community to help them.
Position myself in the community. You know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the job after I took the RCA, the Recovery Coach Academy. Back in September of like 2024, I want to say. And I was like, maybe I do want to do peer services. Maybe I don't. But I just heard of the Recovery Corps program and I was like, okay, maybe I'll try that. and it worked really well for what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because you guys worked with me, you heard what I wanted to do, and you guys were willing to make that happen. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what Kenzie is talking about, so she came to Minnesota Recovery Connection under the umbrella of AMPACT, a Recovery Corps, as a coordinator, and she wanted to focus her attention on the unhoused, the homeless, that whole group, and say, I want to go reach back out to them. I'm in a better place. I can't change them, but I know what they're going through, right? You lived it. And I think that's the whole idea around peer recovery services, too, and that is you didn't know what you wanted to do, but you knew you could identify.
Right.
And that's what peer recovery services that we do at Minnesota Recovery Connection. That is, I've got lived experience in using alcohol as my coping mechanism. And kind of, I've always said this, who better to talk to somebody than somebody who's, air quotes, everybody, air quotes, been there, because we share addiction. We don't share our stories. We've got commonalities. And you literally have commonalities and a whole nother vocabulary of community.
Yeah.
And what have you been able to do?
Oh, it really took off after, my main spot of outreach weekly for about a year ever since I started is Peace House Community in Minneapolis.
Where is that?
1816 Portland. So it's right off 18th in Portland. It's like a community drop-in center. However, they like to be called a community center more than anything.
Yeah, they are. They are a community.
Yes, and I love it there. I try not to miss that, because I've learned so much from those people, the community members there. I mean, just everybody. But the thing that really took it off was when, at first I was really nervous. So I was like, I got to come up with an idea to kind of break the ice, right? And so at the time I was living up in Shoreview, and there was a barber shop. You'd see all those pop-up kind of people would put a chair down and do somebody's hair for free, and I was like, I'm gonna see if they'll do it, I think that would just make things
so cool.
Great. It would break a lot of ice and stuff like that. And it did. It happened May 7th of last year. We had about 12 barbers come for 4 hours and just do free haircuts.
From all over the community?
The barbers, it was a specific one, Shifty's up in Mounds View.
Okay.
So it's right off Mounds View Boulevard in a strip mall. But so it actually worked out perfect because their original owner passed away in a car accident 2 years ago this May. So they wanted to honor him with that as well. So it all just kind of fell perfectly into place with everything. And everything took off after that, Hang
on a second. I got to back up because it's such a great story.
Yeah.
So you got Shifties in there. You have 12 barbers. Do you have any idea how many people they served just in that day?
50 to 60.
50 to 60 people, folks, that got a haircut and a shave and felt more like they belonged.
Yes.
I think there isn't probably too many people who've gotten lost on their phones who've seen street outreach and giving somebody a haircut. And, you see these individuals that look pretty ragtag, and then all of a sudden you give them a haircut or the lady a haircut, and all of a sudden they just feel different.
Yeah.
So how amazing to give people that opportunity. So that really broke the kind of the whole thing open.
Yeah.
What's happened since then?
Since then, what this community really looks for especially is the consistency. I've tried my best to stand on the fact that I'm going to show up every week so that I can build the trust and the relationships, and that's really what started to happen. I'd show up every Friday. I'd kind of, there was a certain group I talked to right away who played dominoes, but then after this haircut event, I was able to kind of be more comfortable, because when I went back into this community, I knew how I was, right? It made me nervous. I was like, I just don't want to say something wrong, because that's not my intention. And actually, that's what happened the first time I even went to Peace House. I had to apologize to somebody because I had offended them. And what I did was I said, I apologize for that. I'll be intentional for next time. And I really try to pay attention to my words when I'm talking to people too, but I try to listen more.
I wonder who taught you that.
Right. You and the RCA.
Yeah.
And even like the barbershop opportunity opened the door to work with, Farhia Budul at NIA. That taught me so much.
About another community.
Yes.
Because that's an East African community predominantly. So here we are. We've got recovery as a community, and then we have these sub-communities. We have those that live without homes. We have the East African. We've got all the other cultures.
Yeah.
But then we are a culture within ourselves. So, it's not us and them. It's we.
Yeah.
But we have differences between how we communicate.
Right.
And you need to have somebody like you that can walk in and say, oh, man, I messed up saying whatever I said.
Yeah.
and apologizing for it and coming back the next week and the next week and the next week. And that's where you were.
Yep.
And?
Once I started working with Nia and Farhia with the East African community, because there's a predominant high population of East African community members at Peace House. And I mean, I just learned so much. And those are the people that I connect with the most when I'm at Peace House. I don't even remember. I remember where it started now, actually. Eid last year of May. I went out by myself. And I ran into quite a few people. I would kind of hit a loop from Cedar to Elliott Park to Peace House to Lake Street.
On the streets.
Oh,
out on the streets.
Yes, I was walking.
Walking to all these places.
I think I was handing out flyers for a barbecue we were going to do, but it was Eid, and I was encouraged to say Eid Mubarak to all the community members because, they don't necessarily feel like they might be able to celebrate because of where they're at. And it opened a lot of doors, even just saying Eid Mubarak to people, like, they were kind of like, what?
So let's set the stage. So you're talking about the Somali community, which is definitively a more brown community.
Yes.
And if you can't see it on video, this lady across from me is a very white, sort of red-headed kind of like young person. And so here you are mixing a cultural thing too, but you were given tips on how to approach. How beautiful is that? You took information from that community and said, if you want to get the most out of these people, listen to the community and then give that say that to them. And then there's a trust that just comes in there, right? Because you're saying something that makes sense versus, hi, my name's Kenzie. I'm from Minnesota Recovery Connection.
Right.
Would you like to find recovery? I mean, we wouldn't say that, but that could be the way it could be perceived. Yeah, keep going.
And so
on the edge of my seat.
I think just after Eid, after the haircut event in May 7th, Eid was probably like later in the month last May. And then just showing up more after that, that's when they were like, okay, this isn't like everything else and stuff. And so eventually the stories started coming out, stories about how people ended up out there. Some of them have places to be, and their family just isn't, it's not something that they can go home and do. They have to be out, and there's other people who have lost all their family in the U.S. and they only have the people out there. And so this really helped me understand more. I almost feel like every time I learn something from somebody, every outreach, and it helps me develop some type of improvement on how I can approach or what I can do to, help them feel more seen in the way that they want to be seen. Yeah. And it's so frustrating because these men and women that I talk to on a weekly basis are just brilliant. I mean, they have all these ideas. They want to open nonprofits. They want to, get their kid back, have a mosque that's specific to the unsheltered community. And I'm just like, let's make it happen. I just want you guys. That's one thing I tell people every time. I believe that you could do exactly what I'm doing and more. The world is yours, in recovery. And I know you can do it.
But what it does take is probably take somebody to find that recovery journey. And I say that not that somebody who uses substances can't be successful, but these are individuals that are really in compromised situations with big dreams.
Yes.
And those two don't match very well together. So there's an element of you get to support them and say, I support your dreams, and I also got to help
get you there.
Get you to a point where you can cope with all the pressures of life, cope with community, maybe rebuild relationships with family or friends or spaces. And I think that's so amazing because I'm like looking at the stars with somebody, but then we gotta help them on this ground level.
Right.
Wow.
Yep. So
amazing. So you have told me like two stories, or at least one story. So let's tell a couple of success stories about individuals that have, done stuff.
And I'll do them real quick. So I'll talk about one community member. I met him on Eid last year, like I was talking about on Lake Street. Older East African gentleman. So he's probably from the era of like the Civil War, Battle of Mogadishu, all of that. So it's interesting even to see kind of the behaviors of age groups. But when he came up to me, I had a flight and I said, Eid Mubarak. And at first he was not happy. I said it to him, and I was like, okay, I apologize. I'm just trying to show you that we're here for you. This is where our office is. You can come, I'll be out here. I'll see you again. I'll check in with you. And he's like, I really want to open a nonprofit for Somalia. to get like developed supplies for medical and all that stuff. And I was like, cool, that's awesome. I know people who can help you, and let's take that first step, you know. And I would see him about almost weekly through the summer, all year long. And I was just like, you know, I would just talk to him. It wasn't even like so are you ready yet? You ready yet? You ready yet?
Because they don't want to hear that.
No.
They want to be heard,
right,
but not told.
Right. And so, you know, for a while it was just months and months of like just showing up and saying, I'm here for you. Like, whenever you're ready, let's go. And then there was a couple times, I got arrested, and then I went to detox. I didn't like it, so I left. It wasn't my type of thing. You know, I have a friend who works at Pathway to Recovery, and he even asked me if I knew this individual and to make a lookout for him, just in case. So I was like kind of doing all of that. Had my friend from Pathway try to take him to detox. That didn't work. But then eventually, one day, this person looks at me a couple months ago, and he looks real tired. And he goes, you know, I think I'm going to go to Pathway to Recovery. And I was like, that's great. There's people waiting there for you. And he disappeared on me, you know.
And you're like, at that point, you're worried.
Yeah, because it's usually, you know, jail. I'm hoping he's not, at this point, Operation Metro Surge was happening. So I had heard the rumor he got picked up. I'm trying to find him. I'm trying to do all these things. And then my friend from Pathway is like, no, he's at the treatment center. I was like, okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
you know, I want to see him.
Yeah.
And so for a while I had been waiting, and then one day I got called over to Pathway by my friend to pick up some flyers, and out comes this community member. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. I am so happy to see you like this. Like, it's so exciting to just see the light kind of come on, especially in somebody's eyes who has that cultural element where culturally responsive care. I mean, I'm a big advocate in that because I've seen the stages of what it can do for people. And so just seeing that light like kind of open up, and I was like, the world is literally yours, you know?
Wow.
And then another individual that I ran into, you know.
No, I need you to pause.
Okay.
I need you to pause only because we'll come back after break in a couple of minutes. So this person is doing better, is now living sustainably.
I know he's doing outpatient, and they have outpatient with lodging. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's on an upward trajectory.
No.
And the reason why he is that you were consistent.
Yeah.
You were consistent. And I want you to tell the next story after the break. But what I want people to hear, what Kenzie is talking about, is that the thing with recovery is that you can't just say, hey, it's time to go to recovery. Here's what you should do. You got to say, hey, I got your back. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm going to keep caring about you, even if you're not caring for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And I want the best for you, even though you don't know what the best for you is.
Right. Yeah.
And I want you to keep coming here so you can at least get food.
Yes.
And then at night you go where you need to go, because I know that that's what you do. But I want to see you next time I come back.
Yes.
And the thing about recovery is there's got to be an element of consistency for people to stick with it.
Yes.
And that's why, you know, people go to meetings, because that's at least some place to go initially. It might not be your jam for the rest of your recovery journey, but there's a consistency that needs to happen, I think, for people to be able to feel like they can do it. Does that sound
Absolutely.
accurate?
Yes.
And
absolutely.
that's what you did. You kept showing up for this guy, and I'm sure there's dozens more that they see your face and like, there she is again.
Yep. Yeah, it's always kind of funny because a lot of those guys refer to me as Peace House because they don't know my name.
Sure.
Off the top. And so that's always the really funny part. But I will say, too, the next day after I saw this community member, I went to the Eid celebration and saw about 5 more that I've been seeing on outreach for about a year now, ever since I started. And I was just like, it's working. It's working. You know, because, yeah.
Folks, it takes time.
Yes.
It takes time, particularly when you're talking about individuals that have gotten to a point where they are living without a home.
Yeah.
There's a lot of steps. There's just a lot of coming to their own, just coming to their own, period. I don't even know. Autonomy and kind of shaking off what's not working and say, I want to do it different, like you did. It's like, I'm in jail. I don't want to stay here. I'm going to go to treatment, and I'm not going to like it, but then I might leave, but then I'm going to go back again.
Right.
And then all of a sudden something stuck. Because that's part of the journey, and that is we need to learn along the way. We might not get it right away, but it doesn't mean we won't get it.
Yeah.
But it takes
Absolutely.
some time. Oh, Kenzie. Such a good conversation. So, again, this is Caddy Frink with
Kenzie.
And we are here with Redefining Recovery Revolution here on AM 950, the progressive radio station. And we will be back after a break and conclude this conversation. I'm on the edge of my seat for another story. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Here's that music again, everybody. Love that music here on AM 950, the progressive radio station. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. My name is Caddy Frink, your host. And who's across the table from me?
Kenzie.
So Kenzie has been sharing stories about her experience having lived without a home. We call it homelessness. It's also called unsheltered.
Mm-hmm. Or unhoused. Yep.
Or unhoused.
You'll hear those too.
And what we want to do is just sort of broaden the perspective of that. Individuals that are living without homes, there's usually a big old story behind it. It's not like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give it all up and I'm just going to use drugs on the street because, darn, that's a new experience I can have.
Right.
No, that ain't it. There's usually, I would say there's probably millions of stories because sadly there are probably millions of people that at some point have lived without a home, without shelter. So you have another story that kind of has like a really good story to it.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
You know, ever since I started going to Peace House, I would see one individual who was very much so like me. You know, I see a lot of people who remind me of the different phases I was in when I was out on the streets without a home, you know. And so this person, he was very like, you know, one of those people who was real hostile. When you come up to him, he'd be like, oh, you know, he'd kind of just say something, but it was in an aggressive way to get you to get away, you know.
Because I think there's probably fear there, and there's the people trying to tell him what to do.
Absolutely.
And going to just kind of cop an attitude with him. So he's going to beat you to the punch, right?
Right, absolutely. And so those are the type of people that I kind of test the waters. I'll say, hi, how are you? And if I don't get the best response, I'll kind of leave them alone because I do know that that can be also a sign of psychosis as well if they're just kind of
not present. So
and just kind of like, you know, they're hostile, but they're not making sense in their responses. Like that's how he was, you know. And so I would just kind of keep my distance, you know, because I knew how I was. And so I know how that he might be that way too. So I just kind of left him alone. I would say hi, but that was it. I didn't even realize he was gone. But all of a sudden one day, I want to say about six-ish months from the last time I saw him over the summer. You know, I'm sitting in Peace House getting like xylazine and medetomidine test strips for all the stuff that's getting added into the substances. And I'm like kind of leaning over my chair. So I've gotten comfortable to the point where I don't feel like I have to like be on edge looking around at my surroundings. And I feel someone standing over me and I'm thinking maybe it's some of the people that kind of mess around with me there. So I look up. And I didn't recognize him at first. You know, I did not recognize him. And that's the interesting part, too. When people are out there and then they start finding recovery, they look so different and healthy that sometimes you just don't recognize them. And
physically, they change.
Yes. And so, you know, I'm looking at him and he's like, so you really don't know who I am? And I was like, oh, my God. And I stood up and hugged him so fast. I hit my forehead on his chin, you know, and I was like, no way. Where have you been? You know, told me he'd went to treatment. You know, he was going to be going to Park Avenue, outpatient, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, let me get you. I know a recovery navigator who will help you right now. You know, my friend Rachel and all this stuff. But that's the hard part is sometimes like he's one of the ones that will go back to the community because he doesn't have anybody else. He's from a different state. And so I kind of give them the opportunity where if they're an outpatient and they want to return to like Peace House where they've been using, I'll give them that to see if they're like, maybe I don't want to come back here again. I try to give them the autonomy in that choice too. I don't want to tell them like, you shouldn't be here, you know, because this is their people.
We can't tell people what to do. And I think what you just said is so important. These people are his community.
Yes.
And so when he gets pulled out of his community, goes into treatment, he's got to like realign all of his thinking, not to mention how he's feeling, all those different things.
Right.
Really comfortable to go back to folks that, you know, they're your friends.
Yeah. You know, and even like the interesting part about him is like we had never had a conversation. He just kind of saw me. And so the part that I thought about is like, wow, he felt I was trustworthy enough and not even having conversations to come up to me and say, hey, look at me now, please help me stay this way. And he was like, can you just please, if you see something, hold me, you know, accountable. like anything, old behaviors. And I'm like, of course, and people always say that, right? Like there's always that, well, why do you want them to go to treatment? Why are you going to support them in treatment if they're just going to probably go back? And it's like, you know what? Maybe, that's just,
it's a disease.
Yeah. And even, I just think that the fact that, like this individual I was just talking about, he is at Peace House again, and I think he's kind of gone into reuse, but he's comfortable with me now.
Right.
He knows who to go to, right. He knows I have people who can help him, and so I don't really, if they come back out, cool. At least I can see you and we can try again when you're ready. Because it's planting the seed, like we've talked about, like you've taught so many people, like it doesn't always have to be successful right away. It can be that, sometimes I like watching them get back up and try again because it means that they're fighting,
Fighting a little bit harder because they know that it can be better, but they're just not ready to take that leap yet.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Yeah, and there's plenty of individuals that are out there in mainstream world, any community that they've stopped drinking, they've stopped using cocaine, they've stopped using drugs. They get a little bit better, and then they go back because that's a comfortable place. It makes all of the emotions go away. It just makes you be able to disappear. Yeah. But they still know what it's like to feel a little bit better. Even though feeling like poop is comfortable. I mean, it's real crazy. I mean, it sounds nuts when I say it out loud. Right. But the fact is like you said, what we try to say is we always just try to plant a seed. Right. Let people be heard. If somebody goes back to use, don't beat them up with words. Right. Say, hey, what's going on? Right.
And, even like too, sometimes what I say is I'll kind of notice a little bit of shame when they see me for the first time and they're just coming out of recovery and going back. And I'll go up to them and I'll say, I hope I'm not disappointed and I'm still here, like we can do, I'm not mad at you. I did the same thing. And so, once I tell them that too, they kind of just, okay.
Relax.
Yeah.
Because everybody else has judged them. Everybody else. They're going to give them the side eye. Right. They're going to say, hey, now you got to start over again, huh? They're like defeated already. And then you say you got to start from square one or you go, there you lost all that. Right. It's like, no, you didn't. You just I just always say you had life happen or you went back to where you were super comfortable. Yep. Because even if it's uncomfortable, it's known. Right. Where in recovery, when it's new and you're not using those things that make you comfortable, then you're just itchy scratchy, I would imagine. Yeah. I didn't have that happen, so I can honestly say it, but I've had itchy scratchy thoughts.
Yes. They just come for different fonts for everyone.
Yeah. So, well, Kenzie, my goodness, redemption is done.
Thank you. I know. I was just like, I would love to hear the first one back and compare.
Well, it's there somewhere in the archives.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, it's back there. Yeah. Well, these discussions, everybody, are really about how far Kenzie has come because I care about this woman and what she can do and has done and will continue to do for our community. But also when we have a real life story and when you now see somebody who is unhoused and they're on a corner and maybe they're whacked out on some sort of substance or they are sleeping under a bridge or they're asking you for money at the corner, don't be so quick to judge. Man, I think I just quoted one of the films that we do. Don't be so quick to judge because you don't know. Right. I had one of our employees come up to, or one of our volunteers, come up to me and he said, I got judged by literally a judge harsher than this other guy. Right. And he did something worse than me. And I looked at this person and I said, do you know the circumstances why maybe he didn't have the same consequence that you had? And he said, no. And I said, did you think about that you are in this place and he's in that place and they can never be looked at exactly? No. And he goes, Caddy, you know what? You should be a judge. And I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. But what I tried to point out to him, as you well know, the stories are so different. You might see the same person or you might see a couple of people and we assume that they are this, that, and the other thing. Can't do it. Right. Because it's going to make an ass out of you or me if I just assume that the story is there. So let's have compassion. Let's have care. And if you can volunteer, if you can donate, first go to Minnesota Recovery Connection with any of your dollars that you want to give, because we help these communities thrive as well. But I just want to say thank you for listening. Kenzie, say goodbye to the folks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
So, again, my name is Caddy Frink at Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution. I am so delighted that you are listening. For those any new listeners, please come back. The conversations are rich and beautiful. Thank you, AM 950, the progressive radio station here. And if you have any questions, minnesotarecovery.org. Give us a shout out. Okay, be well.